Former President Trump yesterday, as we mentioned earlier, was interviewed by the editor-in-chief of Bloomberg News. Trump was pressed about his economic policies and on accepting the results of November's election.
And the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget, which is a bipartisan outfit, put out some predictions the other day. If you add up all the promises you've made, and your plans would add $7.5 trillion to the debt. That's more than twice the total for Vice President Harris. You're on course to push up debt up to 150% of GDP. This is a very business-like audience.
Yeah.
Why should they trust you with that?
Because we're about growth. She's got no growth whatsoever, and we're all about growth. We're going to bring companies back to our country. You look at, even today, as I was driving over, I see these empty, old, beautiful, like steel mills and factories that are empty and falling down. Some have been converted to senior citizens' homes, but that's not going to do the trick. And we're going to bring the companies back. We're going to lower taxes still further for companies that are going to make their product in the USA. We're going to protect those companies with strong tariffs, because I'm a believer in tariffs. I'm not sure that you are. I don't think you are, but I congratulate you on your career. But to me, the most beautiful word in the dictionary is tariff, and it's my favorite word. It needs a public relations firm.
Will you commit now to respecting and encouraging a peaceful transfer of power?
Well, you had a peaceful transfer of power.
You had a peaceful transfer of power. You had a peaceful... Come on, President Trump. You had a peaceful transfer of power compared with Venezuela, but it was by far the worst transfer of power for a long time.
The primary scene in Washington was hundreds of thousands, the largest group of people I've ever spoken before, and I've spoken before, and it was love and peace. And some people went to the Capitol. And a lot of strange things happened there, a lot of strange things with people being waved into the Capitol by police, with people screaming, go in, that never got into trouble, you know? I don't want to mention names, but you know who they are. A lot of strange things happened. But you had a peaceful, very peaceful. I left the morning that I was supposed to leave. I went to Florida, and you had a very peaceful transfer.
You talked a lot about tariffs. You look at the American economy, 40 million jobs rely on trade. It accounts for 27% of GDP.
Okay.
If you cut that off, that's also going to have an effect on many, many business people here.
Yeah.
Tariffs also have another side. Isn't that something that you have to acknowledge?
No.
You could be plunging America into the biggest trade war since Smoot-Hawley.
But there are no tariffs.
You're going to stop. There are tariffs already.
No, there are no tariffs. All you have to do is build your plant in the United States, and you don't have any tariffs.
People in a lot of places like this, there are a lot of jobs that rely on foreigners coming here. You're going to basically stop trade with China. You're talking about 60% trade on that, 60% tariffs on that. You're talking, as you said, 100, 200% on things you don't really like. You're also talking about 10, 20% tariffs on the rest of the world. That is going to have a serious effect on the overall economy. And yes, you're going to find some people who will gain from individual tariffs. The overall effect could be massive.
I agree it's going to have a massive effect, positive effect. It's going to be a positive, not a negative.
Well,
let me just tell you, I know how committed you are to this, and it must be hard for you to, spend 25 years talking about tariffs as being negative and then have somebody explain to you that you're totally wrong.
The markets are looking at the fact you are making all these promises. Latest one was car loans. You're flooding the thing with giving giveaways.
But we're going to grow.
I was actually quite kind to you. I used $7 trillion. The upper estimate is $15 trillion. People like the Wall Street Journal, who's hardly a communist organization,
yeah, but you don't know.
They have criticized you on this as well. You are running up enormous debt.
What does the Wall Street Journal know? I'm meeting with them tomorrow. What does the Wall Street Journal know? They've been wrong about everything. So have you, by the way. You've been wrong about it.
You're trying to turn this. You've
been wrong about it.
No, you're trying to turn this into debate. There are business people.
But you're wrong. You've been wrong. You've been wrong all your life on this stuff. The Mercedes-Benz will start building in the United States, and they have a little bit. But you know what they really are? Assembly, like in South Carolina. But they build everything in Germany, and then they assemble it here. They get away with murder because they say, "Oh yes, we're building cars." They don't build cars. They take them out of a box and they assemble them. We could have our child do it.
This is Donald Trump at the Economic Club of Chicago yesterday, being interviewed by the editor-in-chief of Bloomberg, John Micklethwait. Mike Barnicle joins us now. Mike, that was about 5 minutes of 64 minutes of exactly that.
Yeah.
Confronted with facts, asked real adversarial questions, and attack the guy asking the question, attack the Wall Street Journal, cross your arms like you're a toddler, never answering the questions. Smattering of applause from some people in the room.
Yeah, you'd like to find out what businesses they actually run to be applauding that stuff. But
So you watched all 64 minutes,
Yeah.
bless you. What did you think?
I'm with Claire McCaskill on this. If you ran the interview that Kamala Harris did yesterday, and then run the interview that Donald Trump just did yesterday with John Micklethwait at the Chicago Board of Economics, you'd be stunned at the difference between the two in terms of competence, in terms of leadership, in terms of what you know about today's economy. I am stunned that the New York Times, at least in the print edition this morning, maybe it's online, I don't know, didn't have much space to actually write about what he did yesterday in Chicago, what Trump said yesterday in Chicago. I'm stunned that the United Auto Workers haven't had a rebuttal to what Donald Trump said yesterday. Basically, that they're building cars out of a box that's shipped to them, and they just open up the box and put the thing together and run them down the assembly line. An amazing display of total economic ignorance yesterday in Chicago.
Yeah, and there was so much in there. When he's asked a question that he knows he's wrong about, he changes the subject, Joe. Among his other comments, he said Google, the search algorithm, is rigged against him, and he's called Google to ask why they only put up bad stories about him. Also was asked about whether or not he's been in contact with Vladimir Putin since he left office. Again, refused to answer, but said, if I have been, that would be a good thing. That was Donald Trump yesterday.
Yeah, I don't think anybody in the United States government or any of our allies would think it's a good thing that Donald Trump is talking to Vladimir Putin, a man who considers America to be Russia's enemy.